Join a network on YouTube, and in exchange for a percentage of your revenue on your channel, they'll give you services like a dashboard and technology and maybe sponsorship deals and merchandise and all sorts of services, a music library, you name it. They'll give you services in exchange for a percentage of your revenue. Is this type of business, a network, an MCN, a multi-channel network, beneficial for your channel? Should you partner with one, or is it a scam? If you Google any of these networks, there'll be nothing but videos talking about how they're a scam. Well, I am one of former executive in the #1 MCN of all time, the biggest one of all time, and I co-founded the biggest gaming network of all time. And I'm joined by a panel of my buddies here that are also senior managers and managers, formerly in MCNs, and we're gonna let you know from the inside what the real deal is. Like Perrin, for example, knows a thing or two about MCNs, right?
Yes, I was a senior social media manager for the largest MCN, still are the largest. And so I have a lot of inside look at how the brands operate, how the marketing team looks at creators from a brand standpoint, and managing brands from different languages internationally as well. So I can really show you the expertise, or at least that direction that they saw from their perspective.
And how about you, Ross?
Yeah, I actually worked under these two cowboys here for about 4 years at an MCN. I got to do all kinds of fun social media stuff and got to work firsthand with creators. So I actually really have a good idea of what value they bring, and I'm excited to talk about it.
That's right. And Ross ran multiple creator brands at the same time, and Perrin ran multiple creator brands across multiple languages. We're going to bring that knowledge to you today because you need to make a sound, ice-cold business decision before you sign any agreements, before you sign any of your revenue away to a network or an agency. Don't sign the paper yet. Listen to this episode all the way to the end. This podcast is sponsored by Restream. Why live stream to one platform when you can simultaneously live stream to every platform to discover new audiences faster using Restream.io? All right, so you probably got an outreach message from one of these agencies, or these MCNs we're calling them, and they told you, look, I want to hop on a call with you. I want to talk to you about what our network can do for you. I've got, sponsorship deals waiting for you around the corner. I got merchandise waiting for you around the corner. I've got maybe some mobile app or game I'm going to make for you waiting around the corner. They're going to tell you whatever it is that you want to hear to get you to sign, to give a percentage of the revenue to their company. And so I want to just kind of go around the table and just generally talk about, first things first, in 2020 and 2021, do you need to join a network in order to succeed as a YouTuber or creator? Or do you need to join an MCN or an agency? Do you have to have a management company essentially having the rights to your content, the rights to monetize your content, and having the sort of power over your YouTube channels primarily to succeed in 2020? What do you think, Perrin? I'm going to go to you first.
No, you don't need this now. You used to need this, and this is kind of the land that we came from while working in a company like this. Is creators, 5 to 8 or more like 8 years ago, needed to have a multi-channel network, and they needed to be one, even if you were small, because you needed the features. One, you needed the dashboard that was normally provided, which by a multi-channel network, which was a piece of developed software that was a service for creators to be able to look at what your revenue was month over month and look at your actual pay stubs. Like YouTube didn't have that at the time. So that was one of the most necessary services that creators were flocking to these platforms for. And then
YouTube didn't have a creator dashboard back in the day, and MCNs actually made them for creators. It was a huge service. Yeah.
So that was like where it was born, was that specific service. And that was important because creators needed to have some sense of security in their future. And without knowing what they were going to be paid by YouTube, they didn't have that without an MCN. So an MCN, that's kind of where, at least in my mind, the baseline came from. And then everything on top of that was bonus, like music rights to different, music labels or music for creators to use. Library. Mm-hmm. Yeah, normally it's like a library that you could get access to. That one was like Epidemic Sound is a common one that MCNs would use. There was something with thumbnails too, right? I think in the early days.
Yeah, there's design services. Different MCNs will provide, or to agencies will provide design services potentially. And so one thing that's actually still good today, and that a lot of creators didn't take advantage of who were signed with an MCN, is that some MCNs, some agencies will make original branding for you. So let's say your branding is homemade and it kind of looks like a 3 out of 10. They actually have designers on board that'll make you a new avatar, a new banner, maybe some new basic graphics packages, maybe some overlays too, who knows, for your brand. And so it can kind of step up your brand up a little bit. And in a pitch deck and in a sales pitch, that sounds really, really valuable for somebody who's never had good branding. But do you need an MCN to do those things? No, but it's just one little cherry on top, basically, that they can throw in there that can kind of put a sparkle in your eye, right?
Yeah, so, and like I said in the beginning, 8 years ago, this was the standard. Most creators, even really small ones, were looking to this as a big step in their like creator journey. But what was actually happening was they were getting themselves locked into multi-year contracts with like a 60-40 revenue split, which means they would only make 60% of their revenue. The MCN was taking 40%. That was a common starting contract for a small creator. And what happened is if you would blow up, you would still be on that 60-40, and then you try to renegotiate. Maybe you could successfully, but maybe you couldn't. So it got a lot of small creators into doing really early contract like negotiations with MCNs, and it was a lot of noise and a lot of drama. You don't need that now. You don't need that cut taken away from you for those services. They really weren't worth it then, even with the dashboard, and they definitely aren't worth it now. So because YouTube already provides most of these services that you were looking for in the past now, and the requirements to even join an MCN have been increased consistently by YouTube over the years. So smaller creators, you really can't even look towards joining an MCN now unless you are basically already hitting medium talent levels. And so you don't have to worry about it anymore, at least in my mind. That's the thing. That was the thing with these MCNs. You have to understand that they're businesses. They're trying to make money, okay? So they're going to say that you as a creator are their number one focus. But their actual number one focus is to get as many good, successful creators in their network as possible and to spend as least amount of time and resources on each one so they can make the most amount of money. It just makes business sense. So think of it this way. They're going to talk like they have your best interest in mind. They likely do not. They're just trying to make money like any other business. And they're always going to make the decision that makes them more money, which is normally not spending more money on you, unless you are blowing up and becoming a crazy superstar. That's a different story.
Okay, for context, what you guys mentioned earlier about the 60-40 split, you guys have been in this game a lot longer than I have. You probably got to see a lot of small YouTubers and medium-sized YouTubers kind of go up a little bit in the rankings. How often or how common of an occurrence was it that a lot of these smaller YouTubers or medium-sized YouTubers start actually making it and then come back and say, whoa, this 60-40 split is not working right now? Was this pretty common?
Yeah, so I can talk about that. So across any number of networks, it was something that was talked about online. You can actually see the public communications about it with creators talking to each other, asking what sort of deals they should be getting. So some creators, I'd say 1 in 100, 1 in 500 would actually grow depending on who they were. And it was definitely possible to renegotiate from a 60-40 up to a higher revenue share. That was very, very common in the past. So that's not like the whole you're locked into some terrible revenue share thing. That didn't really last for very long. So they were able to renegotiate up very commonly. Today, so what we're talking about for multi-channel networks is they would take 40, back in the day, they would take 40% of your revenue, maybe 30% of your revenue in exchange for the services. As time went on from the early 2009 era of MCNs to today, the amount of revenue the MCNs took from creators in exchange for services decreased from 40% to 30% to 20%, now in some cases 10% or less. So what I would recommend to creators that are potentially looking to sign with an agency or sign with a network is to negotiate the revenue share down that you're talking with the MCN about to the absolute bare minimum. And if you're only listening to one thing I say on this podcast today, listen to this part right here. It is an ice cold business decision to join a talent agency, a management agency, or an MCN. And you need to just literally write down on paper this equation. So the equation is, they're asking me for this percentage of my revenue. They're going to provide me with these services right here. You take the top item, subtract the bottom item, and then what are you left with? So if they're taking, for example, 10% of your revenue and you make $100,000 per year, that is $10,000 per year. So if the services that they're providing you are equal to you $10,000 per year or more, that's a good business deal. Then you should potentially sign with that MCN or that agency or that management company. If the services they're providing are not worth $10,000 per year in this example to you, then don't sign, because the value isn't there for you. It is an ice cold business calculation. You're not anybody's buddy. You're not anybody's friend. You don't need anyone else to be successful. But in some cases, though, some creators can join MCNs and they can offer them services that are worth way more than the revenue share that they're providing. For example, if you're a music creator, some MCNs offer label services and claiming services, and they can help you get better distribution. They can help you manage your own channel. Maybe you're a clueless musician who makes fire tracks, but you have no idea how to do any of this social media stuff. The MCN or the agency or the management company could provide you with services that transform your business, right? So that's a good business partnership. But what is a bad business partnership is when you blindly sign away a percentage of your revenue without doing a very careful value calculation for the money you're giving up. And that's the one, if you only remember one thing from this podcast today, it is exactly that. It is an ice cold business calculation. You guys got it? Good. Back to you, Ross.
Okay, question I had just based on that. You kind of hit on it a little bit from the music genre, and we talked about the past, what they offered. What currently do MCNs offer?
I mean, it depends on the MCN. So MCNs used to all offer the same thing back in the day. The dashboard, monetization, basic YouTube features, eventually the music library. They would spice things up with other items. It depended. Over time, though, they needed to offer today. They're more boutique. They're more specialized today than they used to be. So now MCNs will do customized services on a per creator basis. So they'll do programs like audience development programs. So what is that? So it's basically like guys like us, kind of, that will work with you on your channel or channels or your social media strategy and help advise you on how to grow. So that's like a custom coaching type of train. It's not coaching yet quite, but it's like a training program by somebody that probably knows a lot about YouTube. Okay? So that's one thing they can provide. Other services they can provide include ways to increase your monetization. So those may be the ones that are the most appealing for you guys if you're looking to sign. We're talking about merchandise. Some MCNs will offer to literally do all the designs for your merchandise, to do all the distribution, to set up. They already have deals set up with these different companies. And like all you have to do is just provide the rights to your brand, and then they will handle everything for you. And then the MCN takes a cut of the merchandise sales, and then you'd get a cut of the merchandise sales. They'll do the same thing with video games. So if you sign the rights to your brand to them, they'll make a video game with you in it. They'll go sell it. They'll go market it with you. And so there are these different monetization methods like that, where you can create new products to sell with the MCN. But one that is really popular today across agencies, management companies, and MCNs is sponsorships. Sponsorships is like the fastest and number one way to grow your revenue as a YouTuber in particular, if you want to not be as dependent on YouTube AdSense. So MCNs, for the most part, have big, robust sponsorship departments, and they can potentially promise you maybe a guarantee in terms of how many sponsorships deals they're going to do. If you don't have a guarantee, try to get a guarantee in your contract, and then you can tell them what types of brands you like, what kinds of deals you're interested in doing. And then they'll go find the deals for you on your behalf in exchange for a portion of the revenue. So these are the kinds of services they're offering today. They're ones that like actually help you as opposed to these broad ones like technology and these different things that don't really do much for most creators anymore because there's a bunch of other technology companies that have stepped in place. So if any of those services I just mentioned a moment ago sound like they would help you, then maybe an agency would help. Maybe a talent agency would help. Maybe an MCN would help. But you still have to calculate how much money you're going to make and or how much time you're going to save. You have to do that calculation. You can't just hope it's going to work out. You really need to think it through, because the thing that's guaranteed is when you sign a portion of your revenue away to the MCN, you're guaranteed to lose that money. So you need to try to calculate whether you're guaranteed to get the benefits in return, or at least close to guaranteed to get the benefits in return. If it doesn't look like it's a guarantee, don't sign, because there's no pressure to sign. They'll sign you anytime. They'll sign you anytime. They're desperate to have your channel. They'll sign you anytime. You are in the power position as a creator with any of these agencies. You're in the power position, and they're going to try to put some timer on you. We got to sign this to wrap it up. We got to get this done fast because this deal is going to go away in no time. No, it's not. They'll sign you anytime. They're desperate to get that sale. Okay? So you're in the power position. Remember that. Back to you, Ross.
I think the biggest issue that I have with this is you're already playing by, and tell me if you guys agree with me, you're already playing by so many rules as a content creator, by what you can actually share on YouTube, and now dealing with the same thing, DMCAs on Twitch. You're already kind of limited in a sense. I think my biggest issue with MCNs is they now have complete control of your content. And one of the things that I've always lived by, especially with my social media stuff, is you have to own your own content. It's very, very, very important for your end game to own and have complete control over your content. Am I out of line or stretching it a little bit?
I mean, there's the things you got to consider whenever you're signing an agreement. I mean, you are signing a legally binding agreement. I mean, in the beginning of this, creators were getting these agreements and they were signing them without reading it. And then they were coming back. They were actually not reading this. They wanted into MCN so badly that they actually signed without reading it. And they had no idea what they were signing. To their complete, surprise Pikachu face, they were giving away 40% of the revenue, and they didn't even know because they didn't read the agreement, because they were young creators and a lot of them are gamers and they don't like to read. They're, oh, this is what everybody else is doing. Cool, I'll sign it. Sounds good. Now I'm going to be a successful creator, right? Wrong. Now you're going to lose all your money. So read. The moral of the story is don't be those early on creators. Learn from their mistakes.
Get a lawyer.
The agreement. Get a lawyer to review it. But also you need to be thinking of it in a long-term capacity, because these contracts are almost yearly binding or multi-year binding agreements. So when you sign away, it's not like you can bail out in a month if you don't like it. You're locked in normally for multiple years. There, as AWOL is saying, I mean, there is no pressure anymore to do this. Back, 8 years ago, creators felt tons of pressure from just the creator, industry to be a part of this. But there is no pressure now, because you don't necessarily, actually, I wouldn't even say you don't necessarily, you don't need to have these agencies. You don't need to have their support, but it could be valuable for you in certain circumstances. So maybe it's an option you can explore, but you shouldn't feel pressured to sign ever. And if you ever are feeling pressured, always get a legal opinion first. Even if you got to hire a lawyer really, really quick off LegalZoom or something, at least get some lawyer's opinion.
Get somebody,
Get somebody who has some sort of legal expertise to help you with it. But don't feel pressured, because so many creators made that mistake that really probably destroyed their creator career really early on, just by making a poor business decision. And I tell you what, they tried to fight. A lot of those smaller creators tried to fight it in the beginning, and they all lost. I mean, you can't really fight versus the large corporations here. The most of these groups are. Now, there are a lot more boutique ones now as well that might be a little bit safer, but some of the bigger MCNs, I mean, they're just going to have more money to fight these. And you signed the legal agreement. There's not really much you can do after the fact, after you've already signed it, if you didn't read the fine print. So be careful. Be very, very careful when you're reading them. And understand that what they're going to write on paper to what you're going to get, you're probably really going to get maybe 50% of that, because they're padding and marketing to you this deal. So a lot of what they're putting on that deal, those line items for each thing you're going to get, they should already be giving to you without it being a line item. And
Twitch does that, right? When they talked about affiliate, and they're going to give you transcoding as a benefit, the ability to play in different video qualities. So that's just it's just a check mark and a pitch deck is what you're talking about. It's not a lie, but it's a check mark and a pitch deck to make it feel like there's value that there's not really.
Exactly. You got to understand that there's marketers thinking about this, like us, and they're thinking about, okay, how are we selling this and making them want to buy, specifically like sciencing it, put many line items that sound great. But in reality, if you actually think about them in reality, what they would actually be like, it wouldn't be nearly as much value as you're perceiving at that particular moment. So just be wary of how you're being marketed to as well. And you're most likely going to be oversold and underdelivered in almost every case. Sorry,
So no, you're good. This follows right up. Would you guys be willing to use the phrase purposely misleading?
Well, I would say that it's for me, I'll answer it first and you can say whatever you want to say on this, but I would say that this is having worked for many companies and corporations, this is standard practice in sales. You have the big things that are truly valuable to the customer that you put at the top of the pitch. Here's you have this challenge, customer. Here's the big solution you want. There's the hook. Oh, and then when you sign, you also get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Look at all that value. But at the end of the day, the thing they hooked you with is probably the thing that's actually beneficial to you, and the rest of it is just sales padding. So this isn't just the agency world or the management world or the MCN world. This is like any services-based business is going to pad their sale to you and make it look more make it look more valuable. We just did an episode on Twitch where they like are selling Twitch affiliate. They're selling transcoding, the ability to watch in like 720p and 1080p. Whoa! The ability to upload VODs to your channel. Wow, what a benefit. Wow, being able to put a trailer on your own Twitch channel. Oh my God, what an incredible value. So they like every company who's offering a service in exchange for you signing a contract is going to pad it. Even when you sign up for your cell phone service, you're going to be like, all you really want is the phone with the data plan and the ability to call people, right? But they're going to pad it with 90 days of Disney Plus, and they're going to throw in a free copy of some old video game or whatever it is to get you to sign. Standard sales practice. And it's all about seeing over time and getting business acumen to be able to ID this stuff so you don't get emotional when you make those decisions and you just say like, wow, look at all the pretty lights. I'm going to sign because it looks so legit. You really have to look through all those line items and see, is this one valuable or nothing? Is this one valuable or nothing? You know what I mean? Like Perrin's really good at dissecting that stuff and figuring out this is actually garbage. Like almost all of this is garbage, but a couple things, right, Perrin?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's misleading the way that these strategies work. Normally they're technically true. Like if you look at them, they're technically true, but you have to look at them in a way like they're piling up line items to give you like this wow factor. When really a lot of those line items, if you break them out individually and look at each one individually, not very valuable at all. Not worth 10,000 a year or whatever. You know, if you're making $100,000 a year or something like that, like not worth a 10% cut. So yeah, it's a marketing practice you're not going to get away from. I don't think it's necessarily a scummy marketing practice because it's technically true. And that's kind of how marketing works in general. It's just up to the consumer to actually really critically think about what they're being sold. And do we want to talk real quick about if you're actually getting into a situation where you're having to engage with a salesperson, like they're actually going to go wine and dine you to try to bring your channel in?
This actually falls in. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. This actually falls into a question that our boy Pit Boss Pat has. When would an MCN approach you at what point? So we can kind of combine these two together if you guys want to talk about that.
I mean, if they're approaching you and they're going to send you a salesperson to wine and dine you, you're probably already a bigger talent. So they're not going to waste their salespeople to do that unless they really, really want you. So if they're doing that at all, you already know you have all the leverage in the world. In which case, I would have them take you to the most expensive place, buy the most expensive stuff. But they do that so that you know,
my man.
I want that
they
Kobe
do
beef.
that so that you can get personal interaction, and you will like their salesperson because their salesperson will be very, very good at their job and they will be very likable, and you will like them. And the thing that I see most creators doing is they feel like they're making a big business move because they're being wined and dined. You know, they feel like, oh, I've made it. You know, here's my big shot and I'm finally to the top or whatever, where I'm getting these big deals. And now I'm in like, you know, the higher level business world, having fancy dinners with, but it's just a sales lunch or it's just a sales dinner. These happen every day. Don't get big-headed about what that means for you. To them, it's literally just a lunch, but they're going to pretend like it's not, and they're going to pretend to be your friend. But you have to remember, it's business. and it's always business. That salesperson is going to be your friend. He's not going to be your friend. He's going to be a business contact. And maybe he could be a good business contact. He might be able to, or he or she might be able to be a great business contact. But it is just a meal most of the time. And it is just a business meeting. You have to be able to separate business from personal, as we talk about a lot in this podcast. That's a really important skill when it comes to that. A lot of you probably won't have to worry about that for a while. That will normally happen at higher mid-level tier or at the beginning of you kind of hitting like a top level creator tier.
I'd like to say something else. And this is something I was debating whether I was going to say this, but I think I need to say it because it's very true. No matter who the agency is or who the management company is or who the MCN is, or whether it's Twitch or whether it's YouTube or any of these companies that are looking to engage with you in business, even sponsorships, you do not matter to them at all. You do not matter to the company. Just assume you don't matter. Somebody at the company might like you. Maybe a couple people at the company like you. But overall, you don't matter at all to them. If you drop dead tomorrow, the company would not care. And so you need to detach your emotion from any business dealings you're doing with these companies. And like I keep mentioning, make it an ice cold business decision. You may think that they like you because they're whining and dining you. You may think that they like you because the support person was really nice to you. You may think that they like you because they're giving you some of the benefits you signed up for, and you're like, wow, they're really nice. But at the end of the day, they don't give a shit about you. You are just a number of channels. You are one channel, and you are, the only thing that you are to any of these companies is such and such views per month, and that equals this amount of money. That's all you are. You're just a view number and a dollar amount. And insert name here, they could care less. So keeping that in mind, that's how you should approach any business dealings with your doing people. Don't get too friendly with the salesperson. Don't get too friendly with the account manager. Don't get too friendly with anybody in any of these companies, in Twitch or YouTube or sponsorship company or anything. Because at the end of the day, when they go back to their desk after the call with you, they're going to pull up their spreadsheet of 1,000 creators they're working with, and they're going to go down the spreadsheet and they're going to sort by who made them the most money. And then those are the people that matter. And that's it. Because that's how that salesperson gets their bonus. That's how that retention person gets their money, is if they make money off of you. And the way these companies make money off of you is by having a lopsided deal where they're getting more from you than they're providing in return. Now, sometimes you can cut a business deal with a company that's a perfect fit for you and for them. And that's the dream scenario you're looking for, where it looks like the company actually needs you. Maybe they're smaller. Maybe they're trying to build a new division of their company, and they're offering you a deal that you can clearly identify as, it seems like they're actually giving me quite a lot, like a lot. Maybe it seems too good to be true, you're thinking. Those kinds of business deals can actually work out in your favor, as long as you sit down and you look line item by line item on what they're offering, and you get back to the salesperson that you're talking to and you tell them, it's cool that you're offering me number 1, number 2, and number 3. I need you to put some kind of guarantees on these, right? When they're offering you something that sounds too good to be true, or it sounds like it would be amazing if they delivered it, you need to say, I need you to put some guarantees on these. And if you don't hit 100,000 in revenue, or you don't hit giving me 100 thumbnails, or you don't hit doing all 100 video edits you promised, then there needs to be some penalty for you, management company or agency or MCN, for not delivering on your promises. And if you can build something like that into your agreement, then it holds the other company accountable for them to do their job, provide you the services. And then at that point, it's just your job to make the content. Now that's a good business relationship, right? There's accountability on both sides. So you need to think about it like that. Let's go ahead and go over some final thoughts here. And Ross, I know one thing that you're obsessed with is never committing control of your channels to any one platform, to any one company. And there seems to be some sort of sponsor of this show that can help you get your content everywhere. Is that not correct?
I believe, don't quote me on that. I believe you are right. And I believe you were talking about Restream.io. The link is in the description or in the comments if you're watching live. You don't need to focus and stream on one platform when you can literally grow on every platform. Just using Restream, promo code DROP1, 30% off your first month. And in no time, you're going to be streaming on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook Gaming, Trovo, DLive, Periscope, and probably a lot of other platforms that you didn't even realize existed. Use Restream.io. Get your face out there. It's the best way to do it, and you can still own all of your own content. And what you said, AWOL, by the way, I really, really, really hate that you were right. Like that really, it really actually bugs me that you were right in this, because I know from our perspective, from the social media team's perspective, working in this, we did take a lot of pride in helping out YouTubers and content creators and our partners. We put in a lot of time in promoting small creators that we know are working their asses off, and we put a lot of time into sending traffic their way. But at the end of the day, that doesn't result in dollar signs. And ultimately, what you said is unfortunately spot on.
Perrin, any final thoughts there on that depressing moment?
Thanks.
Nah, just reminiscing about all the years in which we were coming up with great ideas to help creators, and then all of them getting turned down because, well, are they gonna make money though? No, but they were gonna help creators. They don't care about that. They want money. So remember that. Remember, there are people. We're talking about ice cold business. Maybe one thing to take away is there are people within these businesses that do very much care about helping creators a lot.
People like us.
People like us. In fact, that's all they want to do. The thing is, most of the time, they're going to have limited resources and limited power and control on being able to help you within that realm. But that doesn't mean that they don't want to. And those could be good allies and business partners to have, because they might not always work that job. And if they care that much about creators, maybe make them a permanent business contact, even when they're not working for that specific place anymore. Because if they care about creators that much, they might be helping you later down the road too. So business networking in these situations is always important as well. That could be a great takeaway.
Final thought. MCNs are not scams. Multi-channel networks are not scams. Talent agencies are not scams. Management companies are not scams. Anybody who tells you they're a scam or a fraud, they're actually the scam and the fraud. But what they are ice cold businesses. So when people use the word scam or fraud, what they mean is that these businesses are designed to profit from you. That's what they're actually talking about. So they're not a scam. They're not a fraud. They're just ice cold businesses that are trying to make money off of you. And as soon as you realize that, now you understand the reality of the situation. And if you can come into it with good business acumen, you can benefit. Thanks for watching. Don't sign that paper until you think about it. And for the love of God, get a fucking lawyer.